Hello, everybody. I'm David,
I'm Tom.
and we are the Little Guys, and we are doing the Little Guys Technology Podcast live stream. I know the name keeps changing. So
Live stream. Podcast is left over from when you had an iPod.
All right, so
But who just wants to listen these days?
hopefully lots of people want to just listen. But you can check us out at thelittleguys.com. You can always bring up some of our previous streams and podcasts, and check out our blog there as well. We just did a post on Facebook, not a post on Facebook, a post on Facebook, and it was about Macintosh and how the Macintosh amplifiers powered Woodstock.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of how cool commercial projects can be. Like you see these things working, or you realize how great. When the only thing that really worked the whole weekend of Woodstock was the sound system.
Right.
I mean, when you consider all the other stuff that fell apart and was a disaster, that thing was pretty consistent, right?
Yeah.
So the Mac amps were a huge part of it, and you can check our website. You can see that, or Facebook, I'm sorry, and see that post. And I read another one, a follow up. I didn't repost this. I probably should have on how much these guys got paid to do the thing. Jimi Hendrix was the number one guy. He got paid the absolute most because he was the hottest at the time.
Right.
And he had in his contract that he had to be the last one to play, that nobody could follow him, which was pretty interesting, right? So that they had to bring him back at the end, and with all the rain and all the issues, and anyway, it was fascinating. So, all right, but what it reminded me of was all the commercial projects we do and how cool they are. I mean, think about the over time, all the neat, very specialized ones, and then some pretty generic ones. But the specialized ones, like every Gas City gas station.
Yep.
Paul was the inspiration for that. But all the Gas City gas stations were our background music. Initially, it was our communication from the pumps to the inside of the station.
Pumps didn't have intercoms built in. You had to have your own intercom, yeah.
So we'd put on the intercoms. We did freezer alarms. We fixed their satellite so it would work, even though it was a private satellite. We set up their satellite so it would work. We did their phone systems inside the store. And the background music was not only inside the store for background music, but it was also in the canopies.
Yep.
Right. So there was sound everywhere, and the people at Gas City, who happened to be extremely nice to us and were really good friends or whatever, and frankly did a great job, at least for as long as they did it. Were kind of a little ahead of the curve. They weren't afraid to try, that little bit of background music being a little bit better sounding and trying that stuff. I mean, I can remember. I'm sure you do too, but I remember the one I actually helped on, jamming those wires in the middle of winter, getting the gas station ready to open in 2 days, and jamming those wires with all that lube stuff on it through that pipe back into the thing because somebody forgot to run one wire or something. But it was a ton of fun. Really cool projects, right? I mean, that was one of our biggest. And then as they went into more truck stops and had car washes, the projects got even a little bit more technical and a little more complicated. And the communication was really critical, right? Because the drivers are talking to the people with the credit cards and the pumps, and there's a whole different world.
That was always fun to make. At one point in time, we maintained all the truck stops all the way out to the Ohio border on the Indiana Toll Road. And the truck drivers would get so mad because the people inside wouldn't answer the phone, and we go back and replace the handsets. They're literally broken. That's back when they had the big plastic handsets. And you get back, and there's a half a handset dangling. It's like, oh, they must not have been answering
you
that.
You go on one side, and then you come back on the other. Or whatever. And they even had a gas station in Arizona, and they had one in Florida, and we did those as well, or whatever. So it was kind of a cool thing. And that was just some of the early commercial stuff. Obviously, there's been some bars and restaurants and cool sports bars and those kind of things that everybody's kind of aware of. But then there's been some real cool specialty ones, like we could go right to this one, like CN Railroad.
Yeah.
A ton of people know we do real good home residential projects, and our reputation is stellar, and people come to see us, and we appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
But the commercial ones, like the CN thing, nobody really sees.
Right.
But talk a little bit about what had to be accomplished and what we.
There's several big projects with them over the years. The first one was their business train, which is the train they would entertain all their clients and their executives on. And that was 5 or 6 cars, and everyone had top-notch AV equipment on it, TVs on lifts coming out of the furniture, because in a railroad car, space is we can't make it 2 feet bigger.
That's right.
The space is the space, so we would have. And the other thing that was cool about it is every car would be can be interconnected. So if somebody wanted to play a movie in the last car and want to see it in the first car, they could do that.
Every car was independent, and every car,
Right.
you never knew which car was going to be there.
They
with
might
the other
take
ones.
2, they might take 3, they might take 1, they might take all 5. You didn't know, and they had to work no matter what. So
I remember watching you sitting there on the monitor doing drawings and trying to figure out how do I make this work consistently.
Right.
The other thing is railroad cars don't travel on some smooth road somewhere forever. Right. They're up and down and in the mountains and down through the thing, and then we had to get them internet and satellite.
Yep, satellite
Right.
internet.
So we had to do some of that stuff.
And they're not always within cell phone range when they're on the train tracks go where they go, and it may be away from. So they had satellite internet as well as.
And that was how it started.
That's
right?
how it started. Yep. So that was a huge project for a couple of years getting that going, and then from there they brought in a car that was a track inspection car that had was literally 22 different subsystems, and they had to be able to look at all these subsystems at once on any one of 3 positions in a space no bigger than this table. Well, when you can't have 22 monitors at each of the 3 seats, there's just not room for that. So we were able to give them full automated access to all those subsystems, including they just have 1 keyboard and mouse at each station. They just punch up which one they needed. They use an iPad to literally make the screen. It could be 1 screen. It could be 9, split up as 9 on the screen, and it was all fluid. And if they wanted to see what's on this one over there, you could do it. And then they had more monitors on the train for trainees, where you could whatever they're seeing could be pulled up over there. I mean, even including a monitor that flipped down on the back balcony.
And this thing was, these cars, this particular car, is on the tracks 24 hours
Yeah, it's
a
a
day,
24/7
7 days a week.
operation.
It never stops, right?
Yep.
My impression was that they have to make sure the tracks itself, the physical track, is and the railroad ties and the earth
Yeah.
is sound, right? Is safe.
They're detecting all the flaws in the rails and stuff that's worn out over time, so they could put a log in and make a work order for the track guys to come fix it. So
It's
that's what
really
they do.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, we spent a lot of time. That was a big, long time.
That was a
project.
huge project, yeah. And it was a lot of stuff that, quite frankly, they asked for just didn't exist or didn't. There's not a big book of stuff for the railroad.
Right.
Oh, we need one of these, and these. No, that doesn't exist.
And
So
nobody had ever been able to take 2 different companies' systems and integrate them and make it so that the people using it could use it easily and
Right.
still using it to this day, but still use it easily and make it happen.
including a HD camera on the front of the locomotive, which they never know what locomotive they're going to have, so it wasn't a permanent. It had to be something temporary.
Massive magnets.
So we had a big magnet, and it could be 4 cars back, it could be 10 cars back. So it had to be adjustable from all those lengths. So you developed a system where they literally had a box with magnets that would stick on the side of the car and cable, and they could extend it every time they have another car. Just plug it in, extend it, and go. And they would be able to see in HD in real time what's in front of the train as it was coming.
And I know Savant was a little bit helpful. They were a little overwhelmed too, right? We were giving them something to do that they had never thought of.
Totally out of the box. That say, well,
we pushed it to the limit. That's
we
for
did absolutely push it to the limit, and they had to make a few firmware modifications to make things work. But we got there at the end of the day. It was pretty cool.
It was awesome. It was amazing. And again, same thing. This thing's not just sitting in a room somewhere. It's going up and down and over and bumping and crunching
and those train cars can be rough when they get coupled onto a train. They don't just gently put them together. Sometimes it's a huge bang. So
it's where we actually, for the railroad, is where we first started using the locking HDMI cables, right? So that the cables could no longer come loose and the rest, right? So those are some pretty cool projects. And there was other small projects for them. We did their hazmat trailers.
Sure.
Right, that they take to the scene where there was a spill, and
Yep.
they couldn't go up to the scene at that point.
So put a camera up on a 30-foot mast that they can crank up and zoom in from a quarter mile away and see what was going
This is
on.
pre-drone,
Pre-drone, yeah.
pre-drone era, and made it so that everybody was safe, and put in all the whiteboards and the networking and all that kind of cool stuff. That was a ton of fun. We've done some pretty cool boardrooms.
Yeah.
From very simple, kind of simple systems. For people weren't looking for something super elaborate, but they just wanted to be able to. Whoever brought their laptop or whatever was walking in the room would just work.
Right.
Right. Because that's everybody's big hang-up. Well, they've got an Apple. They've got a this. They've got a that. Theirs only does this resolution. That kind of thing. And we'd simplify all that. Make boardrooms simple to use. And we've done some pretty elaborate ones too, where things pop out of the table and things drop down out of the ceiling, and all those kind of things.
It's really purpose. I mean, the trick of a boardroom or a training room, something like that, is to really, and sometimes it's a challenge to drive down to what do you really need, or what is it you really want to have? Because a lot of times they've seen cool setups. Oh, we like something like that, But maybe that's not what's going to work for them.
Right.
So we have to interpret, well, what do you actually do with it? What is it going to be? Steve had one not long ago where besides having a couple of training rooms, they had a bunch of small huddle spaces around. And that's becoming more of a, work is becoming decentralized. People aren't necessarily in work, or they don't necessarily sit in, they don't have an office. They come in and there's common spaces where they can if they want to work here today, they work here today. When they work there, so we put in there's 4 or 5 areas that, and they could bring up a presentation in one spot, and they could bring those up on the other spots as well. So if it's a big meeting where there's a lot of overflow, no problem, they can spill it out.
Or the room and do it that way. And then more recently, the government jobs we've been doing, the city council meetings and
Right.
those kind of things. I've had live streaming like we're doing here.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. That's everybody wants to stream their meetings now and put them online. Some people want to do it real time. Some people want to do it after the fact, depending on what the lawyers for that particular village say. And so we come in and we figure out. And a lot of people are, well, we got a guy in the back on his phone who's doing it now. Yeah. Well, that's not good enough. So we're developing live stream systems for them. We have a really good formula for doing that. That's really simple to use once it's installed, and you train a few people on it.
And the key is you can understand the words. It's good, clear audio.
Yeah.
The audio mixes well with the video. It's just done correctly.
Right.
And again, not overthinking it, not making
Right.
it so complicated that nobody can use it.
It's not a Hollywood TV show where it needs to be. You got to find that line of we need good performance, we need good quality images,
Yeah.
but we're not filming the next Avengers movie. So
I remember when CN took over for, and this is going back a minute, but when CN took over for Illinois Central, they brought down some of the original cars that had been done for them in Canada.
Right.
And they brought one of the director's cars, or the entertainment cars, and it had this unbelievably expensive, elaborate mixing consoles and all kinds of crazy stuff that's really cool gear, and it's expensive as heck, but it was the wrong thing for what they were doing, and
Right.
nobody could use it.
Right.
That's what the guy said. He said, it's supposed to do all this stuff, and I said, well, it probably does do all that stuff. You just have to know how to,
Right.
navigate it. And he said, well, we don't want to. We just want to push the button and have it do what it's supposed to do.
Right.
Right. So I mean that was a case of just the wrong gear, not listening, not paying attention to what somebody said.
Right.
Their eyes light up because here's a big deal we can make, and not taking care of the way it should have been done in the first place.
Right.
Or whatever.
Right.
Now, we really try to focus on what it is that you want to accomplish. What do you want to do? How do you want to do it in all of these spaces? Brought over, frankly, from the residential thing, where you really have to listen to customers and pay attention, and figure out what it is they're telling you and what they really mean and stuff
Right.
like that. So, boardrooms, the training centers, obviously, that's a big deal. That's more and more and more.
More and more training centers. We have a really good client we've been doing business with for a long time, and at this point, I think we're up to 7 or 8 training rooms for all their facilities. They have facilities from Northwest Indiana all the way up to the Wisconsin border, and a key part of their business is training. The product they're selling to all their dealers.
Yeah.
They provide the training for it, and that's a huge part of their business to give the education for it. So training is very important to them. So the thing that's cool about them is we've done 7 or 8 boardrooms now, or training rooms with them now, and they have a couple smaller ones, and they have some really big ones that'll seat a couple hundred people. We're at the point now where we're actually doing where we're doing it again, because we have such a long customer. Like we did it, maybe it was in 98 or 2000, 2002, right? Well, it's time for a technology refresh.
Yeah.
But as we do them, we refine it more and more. They realize what they need as training, because training has evolved from what they needed then to what they need now is completely different. So we're just, as we're doing this, the control systems that we did back then, which worked, are nowhere near as convenient as the control systems we can do now. And then sometimes the last room we did from, they realized, listen, this room, it literally just needs to be a projector, a screen with a button, and we plug in to a wall plate. Okay, then that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And that's why we refreshed it, and it's great.
And projectors have gotten so much brighter.
They have.
Right, that you can use them in with lights on in the room for the most part.
Yep.
And the combination of the projectors getting brighter and more affordable, and the screen material. I mean, the screen material today lets so much light come forward and rejects
Even the
ambient light.
basic screen materials today are so much better than what they were.
It's a huge difference.
Yep.
Schools, right?
Yep.
We just did a post, a blog on one of the schools we did.
We did. Check that out on the
Facebook.
website and Facebook. There's both places.
Some unique, and that one's been reposted by a couple of other people because it was kind of so unique. It's a gymnasium
Right.
with a 20-foot drop
For the projector.
For the projector.
Right.
Massive screen, because the room's used as a gym and it's also used as an auditorium.
Right.
Right. So they need to be able to kind of make use of that same.
The gym
space.
is a multi-purpose room in a lot of schools,
Yeah.
and they have to be able to shift gears. So
and it's got it. Yeah, there's a million different ways you could get a screen or a projector to drop down, but it's got to do it every time.
Right.
It's got to lock in at the places it's supposed to lock in, and then it's also got to be able. If you need to change the lamp, you don't want to have to get on a 20-foot ladder and.
Well, their biggest concern was they have a brand new gym floor, and they don't want to have to be rolling a lift out on the gym floor if they got to go service the lamp and the projector or something else. So bring the projector down to where you can just either be standing there or on a ladder, and in that case, you can just stand there.
It's a fascinating project, and there's more details on that
Yep.
on the site. Churches. They present a lot of challenges because you can't cover up certain things.
Yeah, I mean the biggest part of a job with the church system is to make sure whatever you're doing is not going to completely change the look or the feel of the actual worship space, the sanctuary you're in, and you're going to deal with a committee of people, and we're going to have lots of opinions this way.
Yeah.
But the truth is that we have a couple churches, and maybe we'll get a write-up done on this at some point in the future. And then they're actually churches that know each other, and then one did something first, and the other one's like, "Ooh, that's kind of what we've been trying to get to." So we're able to incorporate in both cases 75-inch screens, which are plenty big for the size of the sanctuary to see what they want to do, but they don't overpower. And another reason why we went with a 75-inch screen, which as time goes by, the next time we could probably do an 85 because the prices are coming down on those, right? Is that Sunday mornings, you have beautiful stained glass windows. You don't pull the shades down. There's a lot of light coming in. It can be really difficult for even to get to the price point in the projector where you're going to have the brightness to overcome it.
It's a lot more money.
It's a lot more money, and the image.
And if 75 is big enough.
75 exactly. So in both and besides having the video in the sanctuary space, both have done live streaming systems, so they can put their services online through Facebook or whatever.
There's some really cool.
Yeah.
I remember many years ago we did the first kind of cool one. We've done a million little church systems to make it work.
Yeah.
I think there was a church in South Holland where we actually did for the hearing impaired and for the senior citizens, we did a thing that broadcasted into earphones for each one of them. Right. Kind of, or headphones for each one of them. But the one I really loved was the pulpit, where we had these plasmas. So it was a while ago. The 50-inch plasmas were built into the pulpit. Right. So the preacher was talking out to this, and it was a big group. Right. It's a massive place. But there's 3 50-inch plasmas in the front of the thing in the pulpit itself, built in. That's when we had Don on our staff, and he was doing all the custom woodwork. And we did some pretty cool stuff with them. Ice arenas. This one always fascinates me. It's not just an open space. It's an open live space.
Yeah, because ice arenas, well, first of all, you have a giant sheet of ice, so that's a very reflective surface. And then you have glass boards around the ice, more reflective surface. And then you're going to have typically a metal ceiling that's kind of bare bones. You can't put a lot of fabrics or things like that into an ice arena just because of the fact that it's damp and moist in there a lot of times, and it's all going to be commercial, rugged, plastic, hard surface, concrete, metal, glass. So it's very reflective. And the first one that we really came across was a problem. The sound system was a couple of sound spheres, if you remember, the big giant wall speakers that hung over. And
it's supposed to go in.
Well, and those radiate. Not quite 360, but the whole purpose is you put one in and it radiates around the whole room. Well, that's great, except that you're radiating everywhere in a space where the audience is only over here, and all of this sound is just bouncing back. So it's so live and reverberant, and that really wasn't that was just a matter of putting in the right speakers. It wasn't rocket science. It was we need to put in a line of speakers and direct the sound exactly where we want it at the audience. They're the ones getting it. We're not bouncing lots of extra. And then the other ones that were over the ice for the performers, because they do figure skating and they got to hear the music too, those were straight down to the ice. So that reflection is only going back up. It's not really getting over to where the audience is at.
Bouncing.
And we were able to, and it wasn't like we had to hang giant speakers. They were all 8-inch. We just used more of them and used them to focus the sound in the right spots.
Right, so that's always been my thing in a restaurant. They seat you in the table or the booth that's right under the one of the 3 speakers that's in this huge giant area, right? And we've stressed this over and over again to those kind of facilities, that it's more about having multiples. so that no one area is blasted out, so
Right.
that everybody can hear at kind of a common level and feel comfortable.
Right. Everybody always thinks, well, you're just trying to sell more speakers. No. Yes, there's some upside there, but that's not the point. Think about a flashlight. You hold a flashlight over a table. The ceiling, and this is your ceiling, you can only make the beam so big. Now, if you wanted to make the cover a bigger area, you got to get way up high. Well, you can't make the ceiling higher. So if you put a flashlight here, here, and here, there's a lot of dark areas in between. Well, that's the same. Light and sound actually do behave quite similar. So, like you said, you're underneath the flashlight, it's really, really loud. You're in between the two flashlights, there's music in here, right? So you have to add more spots. And that comes into, actually everybody in the office knows how, at this point, how to design for that. How high is the ceiling? That lets us determine how far we can spread the speakers out and then how many speakers we're going to need. We approach it from the engineering side of it. It's not, we want to sell this guy 10 speakers. Like, no, how many speakers does he need? Let's lay it out. Okay.
What's the right thing to do?
He needs 8, or he needs 12, or he needs 4, he needs 16.
And by the way, it's no longer just those in-ceiling speakers, right? There's a lot of really nice commercial pendant style
speakers, yeah.
I mean, that sound amazing.
Well, especially with more and more spaces going to an open ceiling plan, but there's not really a defined ceiling. It's just you're just looking up and you see the rafters
It's
and the
really
roof line.
a nice combination of fashion or style,
Right.
as well as good sound and spreading it out evenly or whatever. And again, not tinny sound and some body to it or whatever. The other thing that drove me nuts always was you go into a nice restaurant and it sounds awful, right? I mean, the music sounds terrible,
Right.
And you're thinking to yourself, there's this fancy restaurant, dinner's $75, $100, $150, $200 for the two of you or whatever it is. You order a nice drink or whatever. Everything's really cool, and then the music sounds awful, right? So it really is. It's a representation of the business.
Yep.
And it's important that it's done right. Condo kind of multi-purpose areas or meeting areas. We've done a couple of those downtown recently.
Right.
That
Yeah, that's becoming a real popular thing. Is to have the common areas where there's maybe they have some pool tables and some TVs, or one we just did actually have a dedicated a theater room. Not necessarily a step, but it's a media room where you can go watch movies, and we can come into those, and again we can simplify the control of those. So we can all the gear. We walk into them, what you see is a rack full of components that anybody can go and touch. And then, of course, you see cables hanging out everywhere because
every single person.
everybody that lives there is an AV expert, and they know exactly how to hook stuff up again. And it becomes a mess. And then the buildings is dealing with the next person goes in there and complains it doesn't work. So we can go in there, we can simplify the whole situation, and we can unify it onto a single control platform that they can even just access from the office where somebody can call down. We're like, oh, here, we'll turn it on for you.
Yeah.
So that's...
And even if the touch panel's in the wall, we can put a password on it. We can lock them out of it unless they're supposed to be.
Make it as simple or as complex as they want to have it.
Yeah. And those systems have gotten more sophisticated with all the streamings, the options and music
Right.
going on in the background. It's making it make more sense.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of those recently, and the some of those combine outdoor areas. So you're up on the roof of whatever building,
Right.
and they have an outdoor area or garden or
Even an outdoor TV,
Yeah,
maybe
outdoor
some
TV
speakers out there with
combined
it.
with the
Yep.
What's amazed me is the quality of the image in the outdoor TVs. When they first came out, frankly, they were weatherproof TVs, but they were really just TVs.
Right.
Right. In today's world, they're way brighter
Yeah.
because they need to be, but still the color and the accuracy and the motion, that it's just they're excellent. I mean, they're
Right.
really, really good. And then the same thing, like you said before, you engineer a TV for the specific space. Is it direct sunlight? Is it partially shaded? Is it completely shaded?
There's different levels of TV. And when outdoor TVs first came out, there was an outdoor TV.
Yeah.
Well, now we have 3 levels of outdoor. We have ones that can, and it's all, it comes down to cost. If we're in a fully shaded overhang all the time, we don't need to spend the extra money for that super bright, full sun model. So that's a great way to figure out. And maybe sometimes it's a matter of thinking, well, we want to put the TV over here, and we can say, well, you could do that, but if you put it here, we can go with the full shade or the partial shade model, and it's going to be much more comfortable. You're not staring into the west sun at night when you're trying to watch the TV.
It's fun. It's fun making these things come together, making it work, and we've had such positive results. People seem so happy. I mean, we get calls back from the managers of the buildings. Oftentimes, we're not the first ones in. Oftentimes, someone else has put in some other system that was maybe even twice as much money.
Right.
And it just didn't really do what they wanted it to do all the way.
Yeah.
And we can refocus and make sure that we're accomplishing what needs to be accomplished. So that's some of the fun commercial stuff. There's little ones. There's just background music in an office space, or individual offices where the doctor's office, he wants to be able to play what he wants to play when he's sitting in there writing up his reports. The nurses want to do what they want to do,
right.
and in the waiting areas of that room, you just want kind of background music. So it's zoning them and doing those things correctly. That comes up a lot. There's a lot of just kind of average ones or normal ones. They're not all super elaborate and technical,
right?
But the ones that are just present a great challenge, and I really think because we listen and because we pay attention, we do a better job of it than anybody. I mean, we're just really good at it.
Yeah.
So that's it for today. I just wanted to go over some of the cool commercial stuff that we do. I want to apologize for not having done this live stream for a while. We just get overloaded sometimes and fall behind. Plus, Kirk from Follow Productions, by the way, thank you, Kirk, for the camera. Needed his camera for his poker live streams for a little while because they were doing some special tournaments. And you can catch them at WindyCityPoker.com, by the way. And they do live streams every week of the event, so that's a lot of fun. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank everybody for listening. Tom, thanks for sitting down and sharing. Check us out at thelittleguys.com. Email us at info@thelittleguys. And the office is open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and by appointment whenever it works for you. So 708-754-8844 is the phone number, and we are in Mokina, Illinois. Thanks, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.